Senator Taylor, are you still with me?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all. Good afternoon, and as always, thank you so much for tuning in to this very special edition of the Liberian Diaspora Forum Talk Show. Obviously, this is a special edition because today is Monday, October 8, 2012, and as we know, this show usually airs on Sundays night. But why we're here today, you might wonder, is because we have a very special guest, and so that called for a very special, edition. That's why we've come to host this special edition at this time of the day, on this particular date. Our guest today is no other but the senior senator from Bong County, Madam Joy Howard Taylor. And the good thing about it, she doesn't need to be introduced. She's more famous than the show itself. And so with that said, since we are very tight on time, I'm going to turn the floor over to the senator so she can tell us briefly about the status of Bong County, the county that she represents, and then perhaps the status of Liberia, and then from there we'll begin entertaining your question. One thing I've done today is that I've already opened my question line. Normally we let the speakers to finish their presentation before we start entertaining questions, but since we are so tight on time, I've already opened up the line, and somebody has already made an entry without the senator even having the time to say a word, so that's a good thing. If you have any question or comment about anything at all, things that the senator would say, or anything for that matter, of course, I do ask that we be respectful of our private life. Questions would be welcome, especially so in the area of a public service. So, but you might want to dial *61, and *61 is what you need to dial in order to get your voice heard. So, Senator Taylor, welcome to the Liberian Diaspora Forum, and the floor is all yours, sir, man.
Thank you, Mr. Kuma. I want to say a special thank you for allowing this special dialogue, especially since this is not your regular day. The playing of the national anthem for me is a call to national duty, a call for patriotism and love of our nation. And it's a privilege and an honor for me to be given such a unique opportunity. I will do my best to speak as frankly as I can on issues that I'm aware of. I want to say up front that I'm not a know-all person. There might be some questions I have no idea about, and I hope you will allow my frankness to say so, and then I can probably research and get some answers for you. But I think this will be an interesting dialogue, and I look forward to it. I just want to say a little bit about Liberia. Those of you in the diaspora I know are following very carefully about all of the trend of events in our country. I know even though you might not be home, home is in your hearts, where each of you live. Thinking about Liberia, praying for us, praying for the success of our country, because no one wants their homes up in flames. But I think Liberia has gone through a process of transformation, especially at the international level. Our country was a failed state. It no longer is. All of us as a part of the government have worked in such a way that has brought credibility back to our nation, especially under the leadership of our able president, Her Excellency, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. The next 6 years, there's a new theme. It's called Lift Liberians. Over the first 6 years, it was Lift Liberia, taking us out of a very dark place and bringing us back to the international stage. The next 6 years will be all of us trying our best to lift Liberians. And I'm really just proud to be a part of this whole process. Bong County is no exception. It is the third largest county in Liberia, and we have more than 500,000 persons, even though the census results, the latest one, puts us at about 350,000. I know we're many more than that. There are a lot of things going on. There are road projects being done. There are schools being built. There are hospitals being renovated. There's a lot of training opportunities being given to young people in preparation for the Lift Liberia strategy that is about to commence in our government. And I wouldn't take too much of your time because I know you want to ask me specific questions. I just thank you for this unique opportunity, and I'm ready for us to start the ball rolling.
Thank you, Senator. Oh man, you are so eloquent. I see exactly why. Thank you so much. We are honored that you accept our invitation to come on the show. Now, to you,
Well,
the
the
audience,
pleasure is mine, Mr. Kumar. The pleasure is really mine. Thank you.
thank you. So, to you, the audience, there are a lot of you have already made entry to ask questions from all over the country. Now, some of the numbers do not come with names, so I'll be calling the last four digits of your phone number. I hope you know that. Oftentimes, we don't know our own numbers. I do realize that, but I hope you think about the last four digits of your phone number. So, because the number doesn't show a name with it. So we'll start. With that said, before I take my first caller, I want to start by asking the senator. We are so delighted that at long last you've been taken off the non-travel list. The travel ban, has been lifted. Now today you are in America. So what does that mean for your political career? And do you have any political ambition at all? Do you have any intention of running for the presidency come 2016, 2017?
Well, for me, the removal of the sanctions, it just gave me a new lease on life. The sanctions put over my head a lot of questions. Many of them I have no answers for, or I might not even understand. A lot of intrigue and discussions at the international community. But the fact that we've been removed of the sanctions, and it wasn't just me, there were 16 or 17 Liberians that had been removed off of sanctions. And it gives us a chance to contribute to our country. It gives us a unique platform to work for the peace and security of our nation. And for me as a politician, it gives me an additional foothold in the door because it was an indictment, really. When someone tells you you cannot interact with those in the diaspora, you cannot travel outside of your country without UN permission, it makes it seem as if you're such a horrible person and such an angry person just going out there trying to blow up the world. So it removes that indictment off of my head. I want to thank God, especially because I know that all things work together for good for those who are called according to God's purpose. And so I know that this is His time and this is His calling, and that He's made this opportunity available for me, that I will work to the glory of my nation and I will bring honor and glory to His name. And so for me, it is an exciting day. I lived here before about 12 years, but it's not the same thing. When you work on the national stage and the international stage and you're denied the opportunities to learn, to interact, to find out what's happening in the world, and to be a part of the changes that are taking place to correct the lapses in our government, then it makes you feel as if the work you're doing is just something that people don't appreciate. So I'm really grateful to God. I'm grateful to our president for making the request. I'm grateful to the U.S. government for putting the issues on the table of the Security Council and allowing nations to vote and say, yes, let's give them another chance. And I just want to thank all of you Liberians at home and in the diaspora for saying enough is enough and that we've come through a difficult process. Let's give one another another chance. And I just thank God, really.
Thank you. The second part of that question, though, was whether you have any intention of contesting the presidency comes next election.
Well, Mr. Kumar, I'm a senator elected for 9 years, and that's something my son and I argue about all of the time. And he keeps saying, Mom, it's too long. I said, well, that's what the Constitution says, and I should be, making sure that I follow the Constitution. So I have 9 years that is up in 2014. I will be going for re-elections in 2014, trying to regain my seat as senior senator for Bong County. That is predominantly my focus. What do I do? How do I work to ensure that I get re-elected representing the people of Bong County? And the discussions for 2017 will come. Mr. Kumar might be dead in 2015. So I don't want to think that far ahead. Well, I mean, anything can happen. I'm just saying that it's too far away on my agenda. What I want to do is to be the best senator that I could be with the opportunities that have been given me. And then we'll see what happens and how things open up. But my priority over the next 2 years is to work for Bong County so that those things that I promised when I was elected in 2005, will all of them be fulfilled. And I've done a lot of work in the field of education, I've done a lot of work in the issues of advocating for my people and working for the people of Bong County. What I haven't yet done, and I'm hoping that over the next 2 years I will do, is begin to do things and to bring on board those projects and programs that will lift people from Bong County, especially women. And that is what my agenda is. How can I ensure that as Liberians are lifted, that Bong County becomes a primary focus so that at the end of my 2-year tenure that is still left, I would have brought a lot of joy to the lives of many people, because when you live one person and you provide an opportunity for training or education or empowerment, you've transformed an entire family. And so that's what I'm looking to do. And we'll talk about 2017 a little bit later down the road. It's not a priority for me at this point.
Thank you. I'll take my first caller. Let me know if I need to go help you campaign 2014 anyway.
I do.
Yeah, the last 4 DJ, no name, 6377. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and your question for the Senator, 6377.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. My name is Amarakita.
Welcome, Mr. Peter.
Yes, first of all, I want to welcome the Senator, Senator George Taylor, to the United States. The country we all admire. Yes, the country that we all admire so much, and in most cases even tend to admire more than our own country, which is regrettable. On the more serious note, I believe many of us appreciate the fact that the founding fathers of the United States were people of Christian faith. But yet still, they agreed to form a nation that recognized the right and the belief system of everyone that lives in America. That is, they permitted a system called secular state. In the recent past, we note that there was a campaign in Liberia, and that we are trying to galvanize support to turn Liberia into a Christian nation. And information that you really form a part of that committee. Given our recent past, I want to ask the Senator, was that the right decision to really take? And that's my first question. And secondly, on the issue of dual citizenship for Liberia, we know we had a very serious civil war that uprooted somehow many of our compatriots from Liberia, and now because of their own choice, but the circumstances made them to be who they are today. If a campaign were to do, I don't know, what is your view with regards to this issue of dual citizenship for Liberians? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And let me deal with the issue of the dual citizenship first, because I've been traveling around over the last 2 weeks since I've been here, and this issue keeps coming up. I think it is at the heart of a lot of the decisions that Liberians will make in the next few years. Mr. Kroma, I love Liberia more than any country on the face of the earth. And because I do, I'm hoping that there will never be an occasion that will cause me to lose my citizenship. But the issue concerning Liberians coming to the diaspora was not a decision taken by most family members because they just wanted to come to America. And I disagree when the caller said people love America more than they love Liberia. They love America because it has been a second home for them in the very difficult years of our country's recent history. But the issue of dual citizenship, some countries have dual citizenship, but our laws and our Constitution do not provide for dual citizenship. Our laws also do not provide for citizenship by people of non-Negro descent. And there are a lot of people who believe that that is a racist clause. But I believe it was a protectionist clause when you say people of non-Negro descent, when you think about those who came and actually made Liberia a nation state. And what they had come through, they wanted some security for that country. But I believe dual citizenship is something that we can consider. What is good for me is that the timing is right. there is now a small committee set up by the president to deal with constitutional reforms. That committee had already begun work when we left Liberia 2 weeks ago. We're hoping that they will do their reports and begin to galvanize the issues that are important for Liberians to discuss. I said to someone this morning when I spoke, I think one of the officers of EULA, that I'm hoping that those of you in the diaspora would take the opportunity to come home and be a part of those discussions. Dual citizenship does not hurt anyone. If you have dual citizenship, it doesn't hurt. What I want to see out of these discussions is not just the issue of dual citizenship, because it doesn't hurt us. What it does is open more opportunities for people to belong. I'm hoping that out of this dual citizenship law that we're talking about that could come to pass in the near future, that we do not lose our love for our country. The Bible tells us that a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And you can't be in two places at the same time. That even though this might become a reality, I hope that people will not, as the caller said, love America more than they will love Liberia. Because Liberia needs all of its sons and daughters. Who's going to build our country? It is only us. Those of us from the different counties, if you go home and you visit and you see the level of deprivation, you see the level of poverty that our people are dealing with, you will fall in love with Liberia again, because it is us that must create this circle that will change poverty into wealth. It wouldn't be strangers, because they come to our country, they open their businesses, they make money, and they send it home. So I think the issue of dual citizenship is something that is worth talking about. I was one of the proponents on the Senate floor that put out the idea of the dual citizenship bill, and then we realized that it had all kinds of constitutional implications, and so we put a hold on it until these constitutional decisions and discussions will be held. We'll look forward to interacting with all of you in the diaspora to make sure it becomes a reality. Let us keep in mind, however, that Liberia has to be our first love. On the issue of the first question about Liberia being returned to a Christian state, I'm a Christian. I've had the privilege of visiting many Islamic countries, and they're proud to say that, the Islamic Republic of this and the Islamic Republic of that. What I said, and I'm a Christian, I was part of those discussions, was that Liberia was founded upon Christian principles, and that's our history. That even though there were many tribes and many religions in Liberia, at the founding of the nation state and the signing of the documents that made Liberia a state, it was done under Christian principles. I know that there is a fear in some quarters, if we're talking about, returning our country to where it was before, that we will ostracize certain portions of our population. I don't think so. Before 1986, and when the Constitution was changed, there were Muslims and Christians living side by side. There was no conflict, but Liberia was a Christian state then. What is of concern to the Christian community is this whole idea of circular state. And when you look at circular in the dictionary, you'll find out that it's a state without God. And a godless state is a state under attack by the devil. And that's why you see all of the different things happening. A few months ago, we even had the indication that some people wanted us to now allow gay marriages in our country. In the great America, as great as it is, there are only 5 or 6 states out of the union that have accepted gay marriages. We're talking about our culture and our tradition, those things that are negative and have negative impact on our people. How can we change some of those things? But this was the first time that all Liberians agreed that we did not want gay marriages in our country, that we didn't want people coming in there and getting married and living as husband and wife, people of the same sex, whether they were Christians or Muslims or atheists. Everybody agreed that this was something we did not want. However, there is a pressure on our government now not to sign that bill because it's passed the Senate. It is now in the House. We're hoping that when we get back in January, that the discussions can be concluded in the House and we can say, no, this is not what we want. because we want a state that is not godless. We want a state under God, following the principles that all of us have learned and living together in peace and harmony. I'm not someone who wants to tear Liberia apart, but I believe the fact of the matter is that Liberia was a Christian state when we founded it, and it also, even though it was declared a Christian state under God, we also gave the right to all religions to live and practice in harmony without being disrupted. And I think this is where I am as a Christian.
Okay. Thank you. I'll take the next caller here. Folks, please keep in mind that we don't have the senator for a very long time. She was very particular about time, so if you want to keep your questions brief and so that we can accommodate everyone. The last four digits, 9648, your name, where you calling from, and your question. 9648.
Hello.
Hi, hello. You're on the line. What's your name? Where are you calling from, and your question?
My name is Isaac Harris. I'm calling from Minnesota.
Welcome, Mr. Harris. Yeah.
I just want to say welcome, Senator.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you. My question, I have one question, but I don't know if I can squeeze another one in from what you just said. But my first
you can make another entry later. Ask the one question you have now. You can come back later if we still have time.
As it is often said, experience is the best teacher. Looking back, Senator Taylor, if you had an opportunity, what would you have done differently as a First Lady of Liberia?
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
And I must say that my 6 years as First Lady provided me with the platform that has enabled me to be the senator I am today. I'm happy that I was a First Lady that worked. For the first time, I transformed the office of the First Lady from that of just a wife to a functioning body. I worked in the fields of providing health care and educational opportunities and providing critically needed humanitarian support during the crisis. I would do all of those over again. What I would not want to see is the fact that our country culminated into a period of crisis, even though we had just come out of a 14-year war, that maybe we should have dialogued a little bit more as Liberians. We would have put issues on the table as Liberians and discussed it so that war would not have been an option. And maybe the dialogue part of it would be what I would have hoped would have happened to such an extent that we would not have culminated into the 2003 World War I, World War II, and World War III.
Okay, thank you. Next caller, 0185, your last four digits, 0185. Your name, where you're calling from, and your question for the senator. 0185, are you there? 612 area code, 0185. Are you there? All right, I'll come back to this caller later. He or she must not be near the phone. I'll take 4724. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for the senator.
Yes, this is Muhammad Sharif in Philadelphia. Good afternoon, Mr. Taylor.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well. Real quick, what's your conception of justice? Your conception of justice in view of your own participation in the tragedy, that led to death and destruction in Liberia. So, what is your conception of justice? And
Thank
also,
you.
Is this not a recipe? Is this not a recipe for another kind of instability, declaring Liberia a Christian nation? What is wrong with our current secular arrangement? You have Sierra Leone and Ivory Coast and Guinea, who are secular countries, very progressive countries. There's nothing wrong with these countries, but yet now we have to ascribe to ourselves the label of a Christian state, which is historically wrong. So now, is this not another recipe for chaos and destruction and death?
Thank you.
And I don't think so. I think the reasons why Liberia culminated into a crisis was for inequity, that there were Liberians at the lower rung of our society that had no access to opportunities, and it went on from one generation to another generation to another generation. People fought because they wanted more of their nation, more of their resources, more of the opportunities. We didn't fight a religious war. We fought a war that we hoped would have brought equity to the table and that everyone would have a space at the table. The question about justice. And as we evolve into the new world order that we're finding ourselves into today, you will find out that all of these words are no longer in black and white. Justice is about making someone pay for what they had done. But it's no longer in isolation. When you ensure that justice is done, someone must be able to say that they're sorry. Someone must be able to acknowledge their wrong. And there must be punishment. But the punishment aspect is where we are. Does punishment mean because a child stole a piece of bread from the cupboard that you cut his fingers off? No, it doesn't. Does punishment mean only that if someone, like it said in the Old Testament, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth? Let's look at the South African issue of their crisis and their war. Look at the decision that someone like Nelson Mandela, who stayed in jail all of those years, coming out, becoming president and say, enough is enough. There have already been too many people who've died. There's already been too many people who've paid the sacrifice. Let it end with me. Let this circle of anger and hatred and punishment end at my desk. And he took some really critical decisions that has enabled him to be Madiba today for all of us as Africans. If someone were to ask me if I thought we should go specifically into war crimes court, or do we punish those people who we perceived as being those who perpetrated the war? And there are two sides of this coin. The first side of the coin is that the courts in Liberia already recognize certain crimes. Murder, rape, economic sabotage, those are cognizable before our courts. So, for example, if there's a family who did lose members of their family in the crisis, they can take that case to court individually as a family. And the court will look into the issue and come up with a verdict. Do we need to go into a process of war crimes before we feel that justice has been done? And I'm a little different when I think about this, and you know my story. My father was killed in the Phoebe compound at the fall of Banga when people tried to overthrow Charles Taylor at the time. He was a medical doctor working in the hospitals. Hospital is full of sick people, and a group of those who tried to take over Banga appeared at the hospital and said, "You guys have a lot of money here, give us the money." A soft-spoken doctor walked over to them and said, "This is a hospital, there's no money here. In fact, we're treating people for free because we're in a crisis." And one of the young men, I think from Lerd or Model, who had taken over Banga at the time, just walked up to him and said, "Oh man, you got to be joking," and shot him and two other doctors. They're buried at the Phoebe compound today. In my mind, can I imagine that I want to take this young man and have him shot also? No, I don't. I think God deals with all of us, and he will pay the fruit of what he has done. But is it worth our country going back into crisis, looking at how closely knit we are, to say let's go into a process of truth and reconciliation and reconciling, acknowledging the things that have happened, and forgive one another and move forward? Or do we want to restart a whole process of bringing back all of the hurt that we feel and putting it back on the table and talking about it in such a way as to make our country even more fragmented? And that's the place Liberia is today. It is not an individual decision. I think all of us must decide the way forward, but we need to look at it carefully so that it does not unravel the peace that God has given us, that we're able to acknowledge the things that have happened wrong, that we're able to bring in place the equity that we need for our country so that the next generation will not feel so disenfranchised that they will say, okay, let's destroy our country again. And for me, this is a discussion that is still ongoing today.
Thank you. Once again, if you're just joining us, this is the Liberian Diaspora Forum Talk Show, a very special edition. I must admit that when we sent out these announcements yesterday, I was a bit worried that today being the first day of the week, that not many of you would turn in, but I guess I was wrong. With the guests we have, there are more people here now than we ever had in recent times, so that's a good thing. I'm just afraid that everyone might not have the chance to ask a question, so keep your questions brief, one at a time, and hopefully the senator will be kind enough to come to take as many as he possibly can. So I'll go back to this.
I will do as much as I can.
0185, your name, where you calling from, and your question. 0185, are you there? 612? All right. I won't even go back to this number again. So I'll take 1728, your name, where you calling from, and your question.
Yeah, this is Manny Berete, calling from Wisconsin, specifically from Milwaukee, by a native. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, about a native from Bong County, from Jokkale District. Good afternoon, Madam Chief Senator Joel Taylor. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for calling in.
I'm very, first of all, let me tell you, thank you for opening the Facebook page that will allow us, the Bongis and other Liberians, to interact with you regardless of our location anywhere in the world. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, my first question has to do with the Democracy or Political Party Sustainability Bill or Act that is before the Senate now. What is your position on it and why? Why do you support that? Why? I'm sorry for that. And the second one has to do with a question that was asked by the first caller. Yeah, what are those Christian principles that you believe Liberia was founded on? One, and what were the impacts of those Christian principles, given that the beginning of Liberia has always been on the, let's say, controversy. For example, the way the land was acquired, the government said he buried the native mentor, no, he stole it, the fanatical slave trade. Are those the Christian principles you're talking about? Thank you.
Okay, the first thing about the political party sustainability bill, I believe that political parties should be supported under a framework that makes political parties aspire and work towards achieving certain things. Right now, the bill that came from the lower house just said, based on the 2011 numbers, the first two political parties that have reached a threshold of 10% and above should get a certain amount of money. But that bill, as it is now, denies many other political parties the opportunity to take part in funding for political parties that would strengthen the multi-party democracy that we talked about. What I want to see, and we're going to be discussing this in the Senate, I'm chairman of the elections, and my committee and the Committee on Ways and Means and Internal Affairs will be having a series of hearings to, look at this bill and put it back on the floor for our concurrence, is that we need to put in place a series of requirements that any political party can accede to, and that those who meet the threshold requirements will now be able to access funding. Because if you look at the 2011 elections, the only two parties who qualify now under that bill as political parties is the Unity Party and I think the NUDP. And you ostracize. Again, we're talking about the fact that people have been ostracized. And if we do that, I think it would just bring more heartache. But I think I'm going to be putting forward an amendment to the bill so that political parties have a threshold to meet. And if you work and you reach that threshold, you should get some funding to enable your political party to survive. I'm hoping that out of such an arrangement, the very small political parties can come together or join other political parties so that we can really build a vibrant political system. And I support it because I believe Our country is so poor, most people are not able to fund political parties. And if we are in a democracy, and if we must sustain the democracy that we've managed to hold on to after all of these years, some funding from government must help the parties do some of the strategic things they need, training of poll watchers, verifying the listing of voters' role across the country, ensuring that a political party is not just in somebody's briefcase with a few names and they're running around and say, I have a political party. It will force us to work together to enhance democracy, and so I believe it is a good bill. It needs to be strengthened. Let's go back to the issue of Liberia. The fact of the matter is that Liberia was founded on Christian principles. What are some of those Christian principles? Those pastors that came from the United States and they sat down and wrote the Declaration of Independence. They wrote our Constitution. They wrote our laws. You'll find out that most of those laws are patterned after the Bible. Laws in the Bible. Laws written by God. And it's not a Christian issue per se. It is an issue that God has said we should do certain things. What are some of those Christian principles? Someone asked a few minutes ago. The Christian principle of love. Love your brother as you love yourself. Love God first. Love your brother as you love yourself. Principles of unity. Principles of working together. Principles of not coveting or not stealing things that don't belong to you. All of those are the principles that we all grew up with. Whether you were an atheist or whether you were a Buddhist or whether you were a Baha'i, those are simple principles for family living that did make Liberia the country it was before. Of course, our history shows that a lot of things went wrong, but they were not the biblical principles that went wrong. How did they acquire the land? That's a historical fact, and if you read it, you will find out that they negotiated, that people fought one another because these were people coming to Africa trying to find a home, and they fought and they negotiated land. But that story is not different from the American story, my brothers and sisters listening this afternoon. Let's look at America, great America. Is this country owned by the whites? This great land was owned by American Indians. Those who were shipped from Europe, shipped here, they landed here. They began the same process of trying to acquire land and of getting more and making sure that the union stood. In the process, it's become the great America that all of us knew. There has been many fights, whether it's Europe and America, America and France, even Africa, compartmentalized and giving out to different countries. France had a portion, Britain had another portion, America had another portion, the Portuguese had another portion. I'm happy that today we have an independent African continent with Africans trying to put their issues on the table, with Africans trying to make sure that the last resources that we have available to us benefit our people. And so for me, this discussion is not about ostracizing people or looking at how we begin. It's about how do we work together now as Liberians, irrespective of our differences. For I believe that in diversity there can be unity and there can be strength. But the diversity we're talking about is not to ignore the foundation of our country. And the foundation and its founding and all of the things you will read on the internet and what we have in our libraries and the books that have been written will show you that Liberia was a country founded on Christian principles. And now the discussion is clear. Is that what we want to do today? Will it enhance where we are? I'm concerned about the circular state name because it means godless. And I would hate to live in a country without God. I want to live in a country that is directed by God, that is built, that is continued to be built on those principles that will bring us together as humanity, that will make us love one another irrespective of our differences. I have a lot of Islamic friends. Bong County has a huge Islamic population. The first project I did as senator of Bong County was to renovate a school that was burned down during the war. That even those Islamic brothers and sisters who saw it every day and passed by, that had the funding to do, did not love their people enough to say, let's do their school. It took someone like me to see that there was a need in that community, and because they want to train their children in their own ways, They have their own Islamic schools. So I thought it was very important to make them a part of what I was doing, and I renovated that school. And so you know that I'm not someone who's concerned about breaking our nation apart. I want to, in my diversity, that you accept me as a Christian with my Christian values, and I accept you as an Islamic person with your Islamic values, or as an atheist who doesn't believe that there is a God. But together in our diversity, we can rebuild our country, and I think this is where I am.
Thank you, Senator. Before I take the next caller, last night, as part of our regular weekly programming, we had a guest on last night, and the president spoke on the need for the full implementation of the TRC report. In the process, we discovered that the chairman for TRC was also on the line, and so he did make a request and clarify a lot of the things to us. As a matter of fact, he's requested to be a guest on this show here. My question to you about TRC report, where do you stand on that report? Do you support the full implementation of the TRC report or partial implementation, or you just don't support it at all? Where do you stand on the TRC report implementation?
I want to say here in this public manner that Jerome Verdier and those commissioners who actually began the process of the TRC and completed it are heroes of Liberia. That they did a job that no one wanted to do. They did it in honor and in dignity, and they brought the issues of our country to the forefront. Anyone can pick up the TRC report and you'll get a chance to see what really happened in Liberia. That is a Liberian story written by Liberians, and I think it's key to remember that. Whenever I get a chance to say so, and I want to say that they're heroes of Liberia, and maybe today some of them feel disenfranchised, or some of them feel as if they're not valued, but I know that the time will come when they will be honored for the level of work that has been done. The TRC report is a 3-volume report with all kinds of recommendations in it. We need to begin the process of working through those recommendations. Some of them call for peace hut. Some of them call for justice. Some of them call for reconciliation. Some of those recommendations call for the equity issue that I keep bringing up on the table, that we must find a way to make our country respond equitably to all of its citizens, so that the people in Monrovia are not better off than the people in Grand Cru or Bong County or Nimba. And the report is huge, and it will take us maybe a generation to go through that. But I believe we must begin the process, because for the first time in our history, those commissioners and those who took part in the TRC process talked about the issues that brought us to where we were. If we let that volume of books just lay on our tables and die, I believe we would have done a great disservice to our nation and its people, because the issues are there. How to resolve some of them are there. There is, however, one sticky issue, and I think it is because of this sticky issue that people pulled the whole report apart, and it was a sad day for me to see people just think, you have a whole bowl of plenty of things, and you just have one little small bitter boy inside, and somebody will eat a bitter boy and say, oh, but the whole soup is bitter. It was the issue of the 30-year political ban. And this 30-year political ban is not a part of our laws, but then there are many new evolving issues of law that come up that we have to create new laws for. It was a way of punishing those who were responsible for the crisis, but not saying let's have everybody sent to the death chamber. And most people who maybe are part of the crisis and didn't want to come to book took it and said, well, the whole thing is illegal. That is a brilliant document that needs to be followed. And the reason why that particular portion, because it's against the law. Our Constitution is clear that in order to judge someone guilty and punish them, you must give them their day in court. They must be taken to the judicial process out of a hearing judgment, and the judges renders them guilty, and they get a chance for appeal and go to the Supreme Court and come back down. Then you can say they're guilty. The sanctions, the social sanctions of not taking part in politics for 30 years is something that the Constitution does not recognize, because, again, this was an issue that was not being dealt with at the time when we were looking at the issues of the Constitution. But this is something that has been implemented in other countries and that have brought the crisis at least to a head, so that people know that others will not just go scot-free, and that there will be a perception in people's minds that, okay, these guys brought on this war and they're all now walking away without having any punishment. But I believe that this is an important document, and Liberians must begin the debate. Mr. Kuma, you know, there's something that happens in Liberia that makes me really sad, even as we talk about the TRC report. Government is expected to do certain things, those of us in government, whether you're in the judiciary, the legislative, or the executive branch. But there's also civil society groupings. Sometimes policies in government are changed because the civil society groupings made out of regular Liberian citizens say, hey, we're not going to take this. We're not going to accept it. And because you guys are giving the mandate to do the things you're doing by our vote, you must adjust your behavior. And most times you'll find out that the government would adjust to those, to those pools that come out. Civil society needs to be a little bit more active. They need to get involved in the debate. Even civil society has put that book down, and they're not talking about it in Liberia. Once in a while, you will hear a young person get up and say, hey, the TRC report needs to be implemented. But the entire mood of the civil society groupings is that, let's continue to do what we're doing. Hopefully we can get it right. So, I mean, even as you guys get a chance to talk to politicians about some of these issues, the work of the civil society is to keep our feet on the burner to ensure that the things that you want to see are done. And the only way to do it is to become a little bit more active. When the TRC report was, someone used a word in Monrovia, squashed the TRC report, it was a talk for a few days, and people have just forgotten about the whole issue, and I think that's the sad part of the story. But I think it's an excellent document. It's a document that could provide us with opportunities to really reconcile our country and to put our nation where it should be.
Thank you. My next caller, 1373, your name, where you calling from? My next caller is actually the person who was the guest of this show last night, the person who debated who advocated the need for implementing the TRC report. So, Mr. Seyon Yanwule, are you there?
Yes, sir.
For the benefit of the audience, would you please state where you're calling from and then your question for the senator? Please keep it brief.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I'm calling from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. And let me also join many others to say welcome, Madam Senator, and my sympathy for the death of the dad.
Thank you.
Yeah, and allow me to say in my short 1 minute and a half, I think in all fairness, just listening to you, I believe in my heart you will make an excellent senator for the people of Bong County. I think they should be proud to have somebody who is not only eloquent, but somebody who truly brings passion to what she or he discusses. So thank you for that, madam. But will you also allow me to disagree with you on a few things, ma'am? Would that be fair enough to do?
That's what the debate is all about. It's a privilege to have.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. First, let me applaud you for recognizing the work of the TRC commissioner. Truly, they remain in our hearts, and we truly applaud them and hail them for the sacrifices. And when you talk about, reconciliation, comparing ours to that of South Africa, I think what I didn't hear you talk about more is that Mandela, who was seen as the champion for the new South Africa, took a giant step when even his wife was accused of crime that she committed or she didn't commit. He allowed the process to take place. He did not, object to the process because he was president and wanted peace and reconciliation and what have you. Do you think we have those kind of leaders in Liberia who, for instance, the 30-year ban we talk about, you think it was a mistake on the part of the president and many others who are listed on that ban not to allow the process to even take place, but then to object using the so-called constitutional provision? You think that was a fair move? And also, having promoted the TRC, are you willing to go back to your colleagues and see that you can bring the issue back to the table? Is that something you're willing to do?
I think it's something that I'm willing to do because the issues of the TRC, like I said, are vibrant and they're issues that can help us deal with those problems we have in Liberia today. We cannot sweep that document under the rug. When you talk about the first question, I forgot what his first question was.
Still got him here.
Yeah, he asked two questions. The one about the TRC, if I'm willing to bring it back on the table, and I said yes. But there was
I'll
another.
I'll open his line briefly. Senor, would you please?
Let him ask the first question.
Yes, I was asking about the character of leadership, comparing that of Mandela in South Africa when he excluded himself from the process to allow Winnie Mandela to go through her own trial and what have you. You think we have those kind of leaders in our country that will allow the process to take place, even though they are indicted and what have you?
And there are two sides to that question. The first side is the family of the person who Winnie Mandela was allegedly able to ask people to kill. And I think, if I'm not wrong, that was the story that somebody got killed based on her instructions. That family was the one who took her to court. So when it got to the ambit of the court, nobody could stop it. But are there family members willing to take the issue of their loved ones that were killed or raped to the courts? Because the courts are available for just that. And that's where we kind of are a little bit of a weak when you talk about Liberians picking up the banner of civil society. What's wrong with someone taking someone, like if someone had a case on Joa Howard Taylor, taking him to court and providing all of the evidence and having the court adjudicate this case? And this is where I say the civil society organizations and families are really weak. Because when someone says you cannot take part in politics for 30 years because you were part of the TRC process, two things could have been done. The first thing that could have been done is that people would have refused to vote for those people. Can you imagine the kind of ripple it would have caused if people said Joa Howard Taylor, who was a part of the process and she's been, listed in the TRC report and she should not take part in politics, that there was a campaign mounted of that nobody should vote for Joa Howard Taylor? Can you imagine the impact it would have had? I'm sure you would have had many, many, many more people on that list just withdrawing from the process. But we allowed them to go through the process and we allowed people to vote for them. So by our acquiescence, we agreed that the 30-year ban was illegal. The second phase of it is that I think a group of persons actually took the case to court, and the Supreme Court decided that this is against our laws because our laws state that people should be given their day in court. These people have not been given their day in court, and because they have not been given their day in court, they cannot be punished. That's what the law is. But there's also a social side to this thing. People could have said, Joa Howard Taylor is a war criminal, and she should not be voted in. And someone could have mounted a campaign, and you would have seen many, many, many more people just fall away, but no one did. So there are some things that the laws protect, and if you don't go through the process of the law, you will not get your case. But there are civil society things that can be done to mount pressure on certain segments in our society to show them, hey, you're being punished. We're not taking you to jail. We're not killing you, but we're punishing you for your role in the war. And I think that would serve as a serious deterrent more than even taking somebody to the courts.
Okay. Are you done, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you and welcome to the Liberian Diaspora Forum Special Edition. If you're just joining us, we have the privilege of being in the company of the senior senator from Bong County, Madam Joa Howard Taylor. So if you have any question, comment, or concern, by all means, please dial *61. That's what you need to dial, and then we will get your question over to her. My next caller, 4721. Would you please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and your question, 4721.
Thank you, Kafuma. My name is Lucini Sako, and I'm calling from Minnesota. Thank you. I want to thank the senator for coming to the show. In your presentation, you alluded to how poor our people are in Liberia, and that is obviously no news to many of us. So my question is, what are you doing as a senator to get our people out of poverty? What are some of the things you are doing to get our people out of poverty? And are those things impacting our people? Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's a critical question. What I've done as senator over the last 7 years is to put in place a regime of providing educational opportunities for people. I know all of you understand the issues of education being the cornerstone of the building blocks of any society or any life. whether it's regular education, whether it's vocational training, whether it's skills training. Without those skills that will enable you to get a job and be able to earn an income, it will just be talk. And so when we started off, Bong County had no systematic scholarship scheme. The first 2 years, I raised more than $50,000 on my own, trying to carry the scholarship burden of the county. And then we started to get in county development funding from our resources. And I advocated and I got the acquiescence of the county that we would now put in place a scholarship scheme to attract our brilliant young students from Bong County and to train them. The scholarship went from $0 today. Our scholarship in Bong County is the highest, and it's about $500,000. And so I want to say in this open forum that in the next 10 years, when you find out that there will be Bong County people in all segments of our government, people shouldn't say, oh, they Pella people all over the place. But this is the only county that has decided that it will put a certain percentage of its county development funds into scholarship and training opportunities for our people. So that is one aspect. The second aspect is the fact that we have begun a series of training opportunities. There's an old mission called Tumutu in Salala district that was being used to train agriculturists, so that those young people who might not get a chance to go to the University of Liberia or Cottonton University can be trained there in providing agricultural skills and training to enable them to go into the agricultural field. That program, we found money in the budget, and it is now open. It is being run by the Ministry of Youth and Sports, providing agricultural training to our young people who can get skills. But at the end of it, when you're leaving, they give you tools and other things to help you begin your own process of life, whether you are a carpenter or an agriculturist. So that's an important part of the program of what we're doing. I also lobbied and was able to convince my fellow lawmakers in the county that we should build a second university. There's now being built a second university, which will be a technical university. Healthcare, education, agriculture, mining. Those are the 4 areas that we will be providing training for. We're at a 60% completion of that university. I'm praying that all things being equal, we can have that university opened sometime at the beginning of the school year next year, which is September next year, so that our people who might not be able to afford to go to Cottonton can now go to that university. It will be a state-run university to provide technical training. And the reason why we are going strictly on technical, because we have all of these companies in Bong County. We have Metal Steel, we have BHP Billiton, we have the huge China Union that is taking over the Bong mines. We have a company called American Liberia. It's called MLIB. There are almost 5 major corporations in Bong County, but our people are not trained in certain areas that they will be able to access those jobs. So they're now hiring people from Ghana and other areas. We now have the oil sector. There's a St. Clement's University that is providing training in petroleum engineering as one of their core courses. This year, I sent the first 15 young people from Bong County to do petroleum engineering, paid for it out of my allowances, so that they too would be able to access some job opportunities in the very near future. So those are some of the things I've been doing as an individual. I've also begun a process 2 weeks before I left Liberia. We're opening a training session for young girls to learn how to weave the country cloth. We wanted to become a business, just how you have the Ghana people with their kente cloth that we're using all over the world. They're now producing the Liberian fabric. I'm hoping that in the near future we can have it sent to a factory where it can actually be, printed and made into lapa so that we can have our Liberian fabric. But that will provide a source of income and a source of training for those young girls so that they're able to produce the Liberian fabric so that all of us can begin to wear our own fabric instead of wearing the Nigerian, Ashoke, or the Kente from Ghana. So those are some of the things I've been able to do. Of course, I've worked in the area of education in upgrading some of the schools, advocating for the annex to be built in some of the schools that will provide laboratory and library facilities for our people. Those are the areas that I've worked in personally over the last 7 years.
Thank you. That's so kind. Thank you. My next caller, the last 4 digits, is 2685. 2685, your name, where you calling from, and your question for the senator.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Thank you very much, Madam Senator. My name is
What's your name?
Arthur. My name is Art Wiado, and I'm calling from the state of Maryland.
Welcome, Mr. Doe.
Yeah, thank you again, Madam Taylor. But I said it, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, you can call me Joel.
I know you.
To the people of Liberia, I just want to be Joel. You can call me Joel. I don't mind.
But easy. The fact here is that you have explained a lot of good things concerning your area in terms of Bong County and how best you want to better the life of the people of Bong County. My question here is, as a senator, what legislation have you crafted to benefit the people of the Republic of Liberia and then apart from Bong County? Thank you.
Well, you know, the first thing, Mr. Doe, is that my constituency is Bong County, but I have worked in a lot of areas that provide unique opportunities for Liberians. And this is where sometimes me and the Bong County people fall a little bit. Oh, you need to work harder for Bong and forget everyone else. But the fact that I've been First Lady, I have a love for all of Liberia, so the work that I do cut across a lot of borders. For example, the other day in our first sitting of the 53rd Legislature, I put out a bill to create the Office of the Assistant Superintendent for Fiscal Management. That would be an assistant superintendent in all of the counties that would deal with the fiscal issues. I know as you guys sit here, you hear all of the corruption issues and the mismanagement of money. But the fact of the matter is that we're sending more money now through the national budget to the county superintendent's office, but they have no system to absorb that money, utilize it properly, follow all of the PPCC rules and guidelines, and ensure that it is accounted for and that the intent of it is done. And so I'm happy I started this in the 52nd Legislature, but it was only in this first sitting of the 53rd Legislature that the President and all of us agreed that we will get this bill done, and it's been signed into law. That provides a key cornerstone for Liberia because we want to get to the point where funding for counties are decentralized. Why is the Ministry of Finance writing out paycheck for every janitor in every county? The money that belongs to the health care and the educational system for Bong County, for example, should go to the county council, to the county funding, county accounts, and then the checks are drawn there. So people don't have to leave Grand Crew and go to Morea for a paycheck, or people don't have to leave for Banga and walk for hours to go get a paycheck somewhere in the corner. Bong County can handle its affairs. So now there is a system in place now to absorb this money. I'm really pleased that that particular piece of legislation was done. Also in this year's sitting, I was a part of me and Senator Dan Morias and I created the Traditional Council for Liberia. Our traditional people have been a part of governance, but they've never been legally attached to government. So governments come and governments go, and they just do anything they want to do to the traditional people, and they come to them when they're in trouble about, to discuss issues of governance. Nobody asks. And we know that they are the repository of the history of our countries, of our counties, of our reconciliation, of our peace, of our development. They are the ones who know all of the history of our country and what is good and what might not be good. And we need to seek their advice. But because they were not a part of the governance structure, people just did whatever they had to do to them. So Senator Morias and I put in place this bill that made them an autonomous part of government, an advisory part of the government, and that is something that will affect all of the 15 counties. I think all of the traditional people now are a part of the structure of governance in our country for the first time in our history after 1846 to today. This is the first time they have a legal role to play, and I think I'm pleased to be a part of that. I'm also a part of the Ways, Means, and Finance Committee in the Liberian Senate. I've represented Bong County, but senators represent the nation state. And so we take part in all of the discussions concerning monies that are spent for education and health care and all of the different things that we want to see. And so I think my work in those three areas and many, many more have impacted positively our nation. And I'm proud to be a part of this legislature. And I think I could do much more. I'm hoping that in the next 2 years that many, many more things will come into play than what I've done over the last 7 years.
Thank you. My next caller, 8017. Your name, where you're calling from, and your question for the senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. This is Siku Kenneth calling from Syracuse, New York.
Welcome, Mr. Kenneth.
Well, Mr. Kumar, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, ma'am.
And not to cut you off, my brother from Syracuse, where are the women? There are no women on these programs?
Oh, they are here. Some of them. But what happened, though? Well, the things to keep in mind, we're having this show at a very different time. But I do have a good number of women here, and most of them.
Let's do something now.
The listening,
I
most of them.
The interaction with the men, but I mean the women voices are always so silent.
I promise you, I'll take a female caller after this one. I will do that by
because I feel naked, or I feel naked. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'll take a female caller after this one, Senator. Go ahead, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Murray. Right now, I will first of all say thank you to Madam Senator for being on today and giving history in the history of Liberia. I personally and respectfully disagree with the history account given by the senator with respect to Liberia was funded on Christian principles. But I think with regards to the time factor, I will leave that discussion to another day. And my question here is that do you as a person, as a former First Lady and as Senator, as a public servant, do you regret anything at all? And we'll let you take it back if the situation revives. And what would that be and why?
Thank you, Mr. Kenneth.
And that's a critical question because if I look at the history of our country since 1980 to now, what I regret most is the fact that Liberians did not have a platform to discuss their differences and we resorted to war. That war caused Liberia to be relegated to a failed state. That war caused all of the destruction of our fabric, of our families, of our society, from which we're still suffering from today. I went to visit Accra in 1993, and I had some children at school there. And I remember it was one dusty city. I have asthma, and I couldn't stay in Accra more than 3 days. I had multiple attacks, and I almost died. But from 1993 to when I went back in 1997 or 1998, that country had been transformed beyond my imagination. And when we were young, people used to come from Accra to buy tissue and to buy salt. The women used to walk to come to Monrovia to buy things. We were considered, the country, a European country and a developed country. Somehow, because we refused to dialogue, we refused to bring our issues to the table, we refused to provide space for everybody to be a part, we culminated into a failed state. And so that is my regret as a Liberian. And I pray and hope that regardless of our difficulties and our disagreements, that there will always be a platform for discussion so that we can resolve these issues amicably and that we will never resort to war, not in our lifetime or in the lifetime of our children.
Okay. Thank you. Per the Senator's request, I'm going to skip over those of you who are next in line. I'm going to take a female caller per Senator Taylor's request. So I believe this is a female caller. I know that for a fact. 1826, would you please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and your question?
My name is Katumu Kamara, and now I'm special on a guest. I'm a special guest on the show.
Yes,
Thank you. Madam Senator, thanks for letting me in. Otherwise, I was impatient. I'm like, oh, my goodness, all these good words. I should be able to say something here. So I'm so impressed and welcome. I really, really appreciate your contribution on this show. I've been out of Liberia so long, and, it made me feel like being there. So I have a couple of questions for you. My first question is, I know you kind of answered the question because I'm trying to ask, what do you have in place for women in terms of integrating them into the workforce? And I know you spoke of education, but specifically, what do you have in terms of integrating them into the workforce, and what do you envision in the next 5 years for the Liberian women? Because I'm not going to say Bong County, I'll say Liberian women. The next question. The next question.
Go ahead.
The next question here. Hello?
Go ahead. Ask your question. Go ahead.
Yeah. My next question here was about yesterday, this last night discussion, so the TRC. And I know you spoke a lot of good things about justice. You won my heart because I have a minor in social justice. So I'm like, okay, this woman really got my heart. But do you think it's fair enough to implement a suggestion? If it's TRC is just a suggestion, do you think it's fair enough to implement something that if we are only doing it for the people, if I suggest, if it's a recommendation, I recommend something for you, and you don't want it, do you think if in terms of justice, if we're speaking in terms of justice, do you think it's fair enough to implement something that people don't want? Or do you feel like, because I personally feel like TRC is just some kind of advocacy, like I should just go and advocate for it, it should pass, because I have the voice, I know how to talk. I personally, that's how I feel, but I know it's a great document, don't get me wrong. I really like it. It's a great document. It did really great. But do you think it's fair enough to force something on people in terms of justice and democracy, something that was recommended?
And I think so. You know why I believe that the things listed in that report, they're not just something off someone's desk or from someone's computer. The TRC process, I believe, took 3 years. They traveled throughout the length and breadth of Liberia. These recommendations are recommendations made by Liberians. In fact, I believe some of the diasporans had a chance to meet with the TRC team, because I think they did come to the United States and Europe to interact with some Liberians in the diaspora to get a real impact of what the story was. So it is a Liberian story. The requests and the recommendations there are from Liberians. So it's not just something that somebody created out of their head. And because Liberians said this is what we want, and it was not by just 1 or 2 or 10%, it was a majority of the percentage of Liberians. I think if you talk to Councillor Verdier, he will tell you that these are majority recommendations from Liberia. So this is something that is yearned for by Liberians, and I think we must begin a process of trying to implement them because they're in the interest of taking us forward. She asked a question about what am I doing as an individual to make sure that women get a place and a foothold in the door. The scholarships that I run, and even though they are county scholarships, they are also individual scholarships. I just paid a little bit over $15,000 before I left Liberia to make sure that my personal scholarship, the Joel Howard Taylor Circle of Excellence, was implemented in the county, and we have a majority, 50% of them are girls. I'm working hard to ensure that girls have a little bit more opportunity, whether it's vocational training or regular educational opportunities, so that when the decisions are being made at the level of human resource departments across our country, that women will have a foothold in the door. And we don't want token positions. We no longer want token positions. We want girls who are able to stand up, who are able to articulate the views of our country, who are able to work toe-to-toe with the men so they don't say, okay, they just give her that job because she's a woman. No, we don't want that kind of a situation. We want women who are qualified and credible enough to take a job from a man who might not be as qualified as she is, or if a man finds himself more qualified than that woman, then he should get that job. But the only way to qualify our women is to put them through a system of training, education, and mentoring, and this is where I am. I'm going to, in January, I turned 50 years old on January 17th. I'm going to begin my foundation, the Mayo Starfish Foundation for Liberia, and we will be working in the field of mentoring and provision of additional opportunities for girls so that they too have a space at the table. So I'm going to go beyond just what I've been doing over the next 6 years and put it in a foundation, hopefully that will outlast myself and that will continue to provide these opportunities whether I'm alive or not.
Okay. We'll be for very quick here. The senator has been here for exactly over an hour now, and so it was made clear to me that she wouldn't be here very long. So there's still so many of you. I've never had this many callers listed before. But we'll go through as quickly as we can. 3960. Your name, where you calling from, and your question. 3960. Amos, are you there? Amos Wilfred. It's not okay. That's a good thing. At least I'll reduce the number. 0150. Your name, where you calling from, and your question.
Yeah, I'm calling from Pennsylvania. My name is Lusuni A. Dolly.
Welcome, Mr. Dolly.
Madam Senator, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have two questions for you. One has to do with the development package from the Chinese government with regard to the ministerial complex that is to be built in Monrovia. Well, unfortunately, some citizens think that they are more citizens than the government of Liberia, trying to impose their way on the government of Liberia by refusing to leave where it's been earmarked for the construction of the ministerial complex. What can you say with regard to that as a senator from Liberia? Two, just recently we have been told that there have been some oil discovery in Liberia. And the oil in question, we don't know whether it's a good quantity or whether it's marketable. We don't know that, but people are making investment. What are some of the plans that have been put into place for Liberian to benefit so we can have the same problem with Nigeria and Angola and other places of the world? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. On the issue of the ministerial complex, what has happened over the last few years is that people who were displaced as a result of the war just, relocated themselves wherever they could find land. The ministerial complex property belongs to government, so it's a government-owned property. They have not used it in a long time, but government has eminent domain. Whenever they're ready for a property, all they have to do is to say we're ready to use this property and people must move. I think what the government is going to do is to try to find some relocation funding for those who are on that land, just so that Liberians are not just thrown on the streets because the issue of jobs and poverty in our country. So I think that's the process that they're going through now. Of course, there will always be rumblings. Oh, we can't move from here, they belong to us, but the land belongs to government, and government will take it to do what they need to do. So I think it's just a procedure. I'm hoping that they can find money to help the relocation process like they did for Duqua Hotel. Duqua Hotel had, 25 acres of land on top of the hill. All sorts of people have built there. But when the people got ready to say they wanted to start the hotel, government had to go back and evaluate those houses and then pay for it so that they would move, so that the hotel would be able to regain its property and get rebuilt. So I think that's the same process we're going through. They will complain, they will make noise because it's somebody's home, but it was put in the wrong place. And I think once the relocation thing is done, you'll find out that people will be moving so that the Chinese can build this ministerial complex. The second question, I forgot the second question.
The oil, the discovery of oil. Yeah.
Critical. I think the national legislature has been raising issues of the oil. What Chevron and other companies that have the oil blocks are doing, they are now exploring to quantify how much oil we have. We have a mineral law in place that talks about certain percentage going to the government, certain percentage that will be open so that Liberians can become shareholders in these companies. And we need to ensure that those things are fulfilled, that the contracts being given now has those requirements in it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there is a Blue Ribbon Committee of the National Legislature that will begin work in November to begin to look at all of these contracts and see how we can harmonize it for the benefit of our people. I think I am recommended as one of those from the Senate that will be working on that Blue Ribbon Committee. I want to hold off this question a little bit, and then maybe in 3 or 4 months when we get back in January or February, I will find time. I will have my son remind me and then we can probably do this again where I will have much more information at my fingertips so we can really discuss this issue of the oil. It is important. I got on the net on the Ghanaian oil policy, and I was really pleased with what I saw there. I'm going to be recommending some of those same things. They have a percentage of the oil revenue that goes into a fund for perpetuity so that we don't eat up everything we have while we're living and our children have nothing. So there's a fund for just certain percentages just put in an account. Nobody uses it until maybe 100 years from now. There are 4 or 5 different levels of the funding that is being kept. There's some portion for education to ensure that the children of Ghana can go to school from kindergarten to 12th grade for free. So this is one of the policies they're trying to put in place, that the oil revenue will be used to ensure that from kindergarten to 12th grade is free. If you want to go to college now, you have to pay. That is something that gives back to the future generation. And I've been reading it. I'm hoping that we can incorporate some of it. But let me get a rain check on this particular question. I'm sure we will start our work sometime in November, if I'm not mistaken. And in a few months after that, I will be able to have us sit and discuss this issue, some of the things that are wrong, some of the things that we need to change on the contract, and some of the possibilities to ensuring that we don't do the iron ore deal that we did in Liberia before, where people just dug up the iron ore and left us with huge holes, and in the end we had nothing left. I'm happy that I've been recommended as one of those on that committee. I will do my best to secure funding for future generations.
Thank you. We got just 23 minutes left of this show. I hope that's okay with the Senator. And so
that's fine.
We'll just take the remaining questions here, hopefully. But I got to tell you, Senator, I got a lot of female listeners, but somehow they have not made requests to speak. That's always the case. So you can't blame me for that if they didn't make any entry.
I don't blame you. At least you gave me one. I'm happy.
Thank you. Okay. My next caller, 5728-5728. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for the Senator.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, for the question. And Madam Senator, thank you very much. We are delighted to receive you. I think you're giving us a very good information on Liberia.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also let me say my heart goes to you for the death of your father. And those are all our parents in the hands of people in hand at the time. Yeah.
Amen.
Madam Senator, I got two little questions here, and those questions came from the deliberation. Madam Senator, your first question, just by your definition of secular, meaning godless nation, so does that mean, or are you suggesting that the great United States is a godless nation, given the fact that they chose not to use one religion over another, in a nation of diverse people? Does that make them godless? That's the first question. And second question is, Madam President, given the track record of your husband, or should I say former husband, which one? Maybe you can clarify that. During his day as president of Liberia, and with your help, you are able here to his leadership, and which brought down the punishment for which you went through, not to face it anywhere out of the country. Do you think that decision was unfairly done to you? That's my two small questions.
And they're not small questions. They're very critical questions. I will try to answer the both of them. You know, sometimes people find themselves in situations that, are beyond their control. But I can tell you for a fact, and I want to be on the record for this, that I was not home during the crisis. I wasn't in Liberia. I happened to be here going to school. I went home in 1995, came back to the States, and went back in 1996. So during the years of the conflict, I was nowhere around. I was here trying to get an education. I got married to Mr. Taylor in January of 1997, and I became First Lady of the Republic. And 6 months after inauguration, we had crisis on our borders. Whatever those reasons were, I decided as First Lady that I would not sit in my house and complain, but I would go out there and try to work to bring some relief to the people of Liberia. But you can talk to Mr. Verdier, Councillor Verdier. He will tell you that I went through the TRC process. I was cleared of all crimes against humanity, economic crimes, whatever crimes were being adjudicated at that time, I was cleared of all of those things. So even though I was near the fire, I was able to come out of it, alive, and I thank God for the unique opportunity to see beyond myself and to realize that it was about Liberia, not about me. So I have my clearance from the TRC. For whatever reason, the United Nations decided to put sanctions on all of us, and included me. Like you say, you must take the good with the bad. I felt that the sanctions lasted a little bit too long, But it is God's timing that is important, and I guess now is the time that the sanctions should be removed. I think it's a critical place for me. I'm up for elections in a few years, and you can imagine that people will be saying, oh, she's on sanctions, America doesn't want to deal with her, or she's a wicked person, let's not elect her. And maybe those would have been some strong opposition words against me that I might have lost my seat. So I just thank God that he's removed all of these barriers. My records are clear, they're clean, they can be looked at any point in time. I'm not an angel. I've never been. I'm a human being trying to work for my country. I have shortfalls. I'm not perfect. But I think what is important about the level of work that I do is that I try to place Liberia above family and above self. And I think that is what all of us should do. So I was punished for whatever reason. I don't cry about it. I think God has removed it at the right time. On the first issue of the godless state, and America is the state it is today because it has 200-plus years of its own history. I remember there were times in this country where the Bible was the tool for justice and all. If you read the history, you'll find out those early years. Why they have evolved into where they are today, we must consider. They've now taken God out of schools. Nobody can talk about God in schools. They've taken God out of the judiciary. They've taken God out of many sectors of their government. And even though they're the greatest nation on earth, look at some of the difficulties they face. You know, people are bombing planes. People are going, you have young children going into schools and shooting up their colleagues. I think if people were talking about God a little bit more, you know, teaching to the young children that, hey, there is a punishment that you can't just go and kill up your friends. Young children, you know, going in with guns, and this is not just one occurrence. It's becoming more common. You can tell that even though this is the greatest country, that there is something missing. There's something missing. It is the fear of God that my Bible tells me, which is the beginning of wisdom. Because, you know, even if you go and you steal something and your mother doesn't catch you, God sees you. And you know that he will expose you somewhere down the line. So maybe when you think about all that they have, so you say, well, let me just leave it here. It's not even worth taking. And so let's look at it in that context. Taking God out of a nation like America, what are some of the downsides? You now have, you know, same-sex marriages. This is an attack on the entire creation story of God, that God told people, you know, man and woman, go out there and multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it. Creation is in man, a man and a woman. Creation is not into women or into men. So, I mean, they've gotten to the point where they are now, even the whole creation story, the reason why God created male and female, if we believe the Bible or any other book that talks about God creating human beings, we're even now attacking the work that God has done by this circular image that is in people's minds. And I think Africa must just be a little bit more cautious how we go. We already have a lot of problems on our hands. The issue of God in our country, in our state, in our constitution, in our judiciary, in the executive branch cannot be overstepped. And I don't want to be a part of a circular state without God. I want God in everything that I do, and I'm teaching that God to my children so that they're better human beings. We now have there's something I think out of the United Nations that they call people world citizens, you know, good citizens of the world. The good citizens of the world must be people who fear God, who live by his rules, because they are the best rules, even though they're difficult, but they enable you to love your neighbor as yourself. And I think that's where I am with this.
Thank you. I'll take one more caller, and then we'll take a very quick break so the senator can have a glass of water or so. So my next caller, 39633960. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for the senator.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Kumai. This is Fumba Toure. Madam Senator, welcome to the United States, and thank God the ban is lifted on you.
Thank you.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Pennsylvania, Mr. Kumai. That's Fumba Toure. Yeah, you are on record. Yeah, ma'am. You are on record by saying that it was Samuel Kanyando.
Hello?
Okay.
Hello, I didn't hear you. Hello?
Yeah, ma'am. Hello?
I didn't hear your question. You were talking something about Samuel Kayando. Hello? 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 I think we're off for Benjamin. Somebody was asking a question about Samuel Kayando.
Hello? Senator Taylor, yeah, she left the line. She'll be here shortly. I hope so. Okay. Yeah, if you're just joining us, welcome to Liberian Diaspora Forum Special Edition. We just lost the senator briefly. We had a slight technical difficulty, as you know. Every now and then that happens. So I'm hoping that the senator will make a comeback. And I believe she just no, that's not her. So hopefully she'll come back, and then we can pick up from where we left off. So stay here. There are a lot of you standing by for questioning. And I don't know whether she's going to make up the time when she returns. So yeah, so please stay with us, bear with us. We have a great discussion going on. And we lost the senator. So yeah, let's wait a little bit. Let's give her a little more time, see if she'll come back.
Mr. Taylor is the first witness in his defense and has spent much of the last 13 weeks dismissing the prosecution case against him as a series of lies. So principal trial attorney Brenda Hollis opened her cross-examination by asking Mr. Taylor, who's lying?
Now, Mr. Taylor, you've said to this bench throughout your direct examination that all of this evidence here before you, it's all lies. And you've talked about how perhaps cunning isn't the word you used, cunning a lie. But Mr. Taylor, it's true, isn't it, that of all the people who have come before these judges, you are the one who has the most reason to lie.
Well, counsel, I would disagree with you, except you can point to me. Why would I have the most reason to lie? I have been truthful before this. Unless you can point to me, I have told this court the truth, and I suggest that you point to me.
I just heard from
and present the evidentiary fact that was before this court, but to suggest
she's just coming on right now.
Well, we will do that over the course of the cross-examination, Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
But of all the people who have come before this court, you are the one facing these serious charges. Isn't that correct?
Oh, that is correct, answer.
Mr. Taylor's pleading not guilty to an 11-count indictment that includes murder, rape, enslavement, and conscription of child soldiers. Prosecutors say he led members of Sierra Leone's Revolutionary United Front across the border and acted as their effective leader for much of the country's 10-year civil war. Mr. Taylor's lawyers maintain that any contact their client had with Sierra Leonean rebels ended before the jurisdiction of this court begins. They are also questioning the legality of Mr. Taylor being turned over to the court after he was granted political asylum in Nigeria. Wrapping up his defense testimony, Mr. Taylor said he agreed to step
Yes, I didn't get the question that they were asking about the Samuel Kayando thing. I think that's when we went on.
Yeah, so welcome back, Senator Taylor. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So, well, I guess that was a good break, whatever break we needed. So, hopefully you got a glass of water from there.
Yes,
so, All right, we'll go back to the person who was supposed to be on the floor here. 3960-3960. Your name, where you calling from, and your question.
Yeah, this is Fumba Toure. I'm calling from Pennsylvania.
Welcome back, Mr. Toure. Your question for the senator.
Yeah, Madam Senator.
Yes,
you're on record. One time you said it was Samuel Kanyando who changed the Liberian Constitution to a secular nation, to a secular constitution.
It was during his tenure. It was during his tenure.
Okay, and you were looking for 1 million signatures to turn Liberia to a Christian nation. Do you believe that Liberia is a Christian nation, and why?
Thank you, Mr. Toure.
I believe that Liberia was founded on Christian principles. If you look at our old constitution from 1847, you will find out that the preamble of our constitution stated that we were a country founded on Christian principles, and that's part of our history. So that's a part of the history, that Liberia was founded on Christian principles.
Okay. Thank you. That's a very short answer. Now, 1963, 1963. Your name, where you calling from, and your question.
That's my birth year.
Oh, 1963. Well, there you go. 1963. 1963. Your name, where you calling from, and your question. Hello, are you there? 1963. All right, your breath here, too bad. The breath here persists. So hopefully they'll come back later. I'll take 6644. Your name, where you calling from, and your question.
Senator Taylor, my name is Mohammed Kamara, by the way. I'm calling from Dallas, Texas.
Welcome, Mr. Kamara.
And welcome, Senator Taylor, to the U.S.
Thank you.
All right, my question has to do with the UN 8 Millennium Goal that's supposed to be reviewed about 2015, I think 3 years from now. And then one of the areas that I want to ask my question is on the reducing the extreme poverty. As a senator and by Liberia's standard, you are fairly rich. Okay, tell me, how do you feel when you sit in your car in the morning, driving from wherever you live in Monrovia onto the Capitol building? What do you see and how do you feel, taking in terms of the poverty reduction strategy and the UN Millennium Goals reducing poverty by 2015 into half?
A lot of the African countries have not even done 50% of those Millennium Development Goals. And that's why this year's General Assembly brought it back to the table as an issue and as a way of finding out how we can reduce the level of poverty in African countries, not just Liberia. But the fact of the matter is that, for example, let's look at the presidency. Do we expect the president of Liberia to rob him into work? You know, there are just certain things that are accepted. I do not ride a $100,000 car. There are some ministries and agencies that the head of those agencies ride $100,000 cars in the executive. Out of 7 years of working for our government, representing our counties, having to go back and forth on the roads, interacting and representing our people, this is the first time in the national budget that we've taken money for vehicles. We were giving $30,000. The $30,000 is a car that will be bought that actually belongs to government. It's not our private vehicles. But I don't even want to talk about Bong County. Let me talk about people going to Grand Cru. It takes you 3 days to get to Grand Cru. Can you imagine buying a $15,000 car? Some people say, well, they could take $15,000 cars. That car will carry you to Grand Cru one time. It will stay right there when you get there, if it takes you there. I think the legislature has been very considerate of the fact that our country lives in such deep poverty that we've not demanded that government give us cars. You know, all of the legislatures before us, government had to provide them with cars, and they were not taking $5,000 cars. We could have asked for $75,000. We didn't. We said we wanted $30,000 that will enable us to buy a halfway decent vehicle. And if you look at $30,000 cars here in America, these are small and medium-sized cars. And to buy a car in Monrovia that is a Jeep, basic Jeep that will carry you all around, you're talking about $50,000 easy money. So out of 7 years of working for our people, this is the first year we said we needed capacity building. We've had to provide our own vehicles. And there is no branch in the entire government that has as much headache as the legislature. People will leave from Bong County, 30 women will come to a meeting in Monrovia. They expect for you to pay their hotel, pay for food, pay their way back. All of that money comes from our salaries because we are one branch that can do nothing else. You can't work in any other branch. You can't get any other salary. All you have is the benefits that you receive as a lawmaker. And because of the level of poverty, that money is transferred right back to our constituency. When I started this discussion, I said how I had managed to save $15,000 over the last 5 or 6 months, and that's what I use now to pay for the scholarship that I'm running out of my office. So people say, they asked for $30,000 car. We have a $670 million budget, and the legislature took only $3 million. If you look at the executive budget, you'll find out that the office of the president, maybe that's just the money that she uses for constituency initiatives under her office because it's expected that people will ask her for things that she'll take it from there. So 107 persons responsible for the entire country just taking $3 million out of a $670 million budget. I don't think it's being selfish. I think we've been very considerate. And our work takes us to our constituency. It is only the legislature that people come to every day. You go in the Capitol building, you are in my office, you'll feel sorry for me. Because the people that will come, there will be an old lady that will come and say, my son in 12th grade, I'm going to pay his school. We give him $100. She doesn't realize that there are 5,000 people asking for $100 for school fees. And so I don't feel bad that I finally got out of the budget money that will help me capacitate myself so that I'm able to do my work even more critically and to be able to interact better with my constituency. I'm the only person on record. At the beginning of this budget circle, I wrote a letter asking that certain things be done in the budget, increasing civil servants' pay, increasing money for education and health care for our country. There is an official letter on the legislature's floor, both in the House and in the Senate, asking for us to look at these issues. So I don't believe I'm a part of a selfish legislature thinking only about myself because the work that we do impacts our constituencies. So I don't feel bad. I have to go to work. I have to go to Bong County. There are times that I'm called to other counties around the country. And in order to go there, you must have a vehicle. But if you look at the amount of money that we got, you realize that money cannot even buy you a serious vehicle that will last. So maybe in another 2 years, we'll be looking for some more. Because if you have a car that you're using almost every other weekend to go out of town, how long will it last?
Okay, thank you. Before I take the next question here, I'd like to ask you a quick question. Senator, why is our redevelopment process taking so long? Why is it coming so slow? Why up to this time we still don't have electricity? We don't have a common drinking water, running water, or at least in Monrovia and its environment. Why is the development process taking so long?
My brother, it's easier to destroy than it is to build. Let's look at how old Monrovia City is. That city was built, I think, in the early 1850s. A city built to accommodate 200,000 people max. You now have 1 million plus people living in that city. The sewer system that was built from 1850 to now cannot even accommodate the amount of people living there. I think what we need is a new city, because in order to fix the sewer system, you have to dig up every single inch of pipe and replace it. A lot of the pipe is 30 feet underground. They're rusted. They've been clogged because of years of misuse and dirt. And to do it, you have to dig up the entire city that will obstruct the entire workings of government. The hydro that is supposed to provide us with electricity, the government of Liberia did not pay to build that hydro. It was a gift from the U.S. government. To build a hydro, you're talking about maybe $400 or $500 million. to redo RIA, and that's something that by the time you arrive in Liberia, you say, oh, God, the airport, we need $250 million to build an up-to-date, standard, small airport. I'm not saying we want to do something like America. Just a standard airport, you need $250 million. Can our budget afford to do those things? No, and that's why we've been doing things in bits and pieces. And it seems as if it's not enough. We have a $600 million budget. You take out $400,000 inside to do the hydro, you have no other money to do anything else. And so I'm happy that out of the way government has run, we have now been approved for the Millennium Challenge account. That is funding that is given to countries to do some of the major work that you see. World Bank has given us money to do the roads from Red Light straight to Ganta. And they're trying to find additional trench of money that will do from maybe Banga to the Lofa area, which is always cut off every rainy season. But the amount of funding you're talking about cannot be supported by the government's budget because it is still very, very, very small. So you find out that we're doing things in bits and pieces just to, move us along until we're able to do the major things. I'm happy that finally there has been some funding allocated to redo the hydro, but that's a 3-year project. So before the hydro is done, all of the lines are redone to go to people's houses and to go to the counties. You're talking about a 5-year project before we can get on stream. Like I said, I'm hoping that we never do what we did to our country before, because we're at a level where if we had continued to build, we'd be a modern metropolis. But instead, we chose the path of war and crisis, and we've gotten to the point where we must just be a little bit more patient. Because the practical realities are, if you want to build 1 mile of dirt road, it costs $25,000 to $45,000 United States dollars. So government does not have that kind of funding. So we're just patching things here and there so that people are able to keep moving. But I think in the next 6 to 10 years, a lot more will happen in terms of all of the additional funding that we're getting now to put our country back on track. I can just ask for the patience of the people of Liberia, but it will get done.
Thank you. 2212-2212. Your name, where you calling from, and your question.
Yeah, my name is Obi, and I'm calling from New Hampshire. Yes. Huh? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Where are you calling from, sir?
Yeah, I'm calling from New Hampshire.
Welcome. Yeah.
Welcome, Madam Senator.
Thank you.
I heard you saying that Liberia was founded on a Christian principle. Can you name some of those Christian principles that is not shared, that are not shared by other religions like Islam or Judaism or Buddhism? Can you name at least 3 of those Christian principles that Liberia was founded on that Christians don't share with other religions? Can you name 3 of those?
I don't. Go ahead.
Thank you. Are you done?
And yes. Are you done? Okay. For me, okay. The issue is that this is what our history states. If you read the first constitution and the second constitution and the founding of Liberia as a nation state, you will find out those principles. And, of course, they might be shared by other religions, but we're not talking about whether the Christian principles are not shared by other religions. My point is that our country, Liberia, was founded on Christian principles. It was founded in the church. The Declaration of Independence was signed in the church. And all of the things that brought Liberia as a nation state were based on Christian principles. I don't question the fact that there are Islamic states running on Islamic laws and Islamic rules and Islamic regulations. That is what they've chosen to do. But the history of our country must not be erased. And this is where I am. As a Christian, I think if I was an Islamic young woman living in an Islamic state, I would talk about those values as the values that I hold dear. But I'm a Christian, and I hold dear those Christian principles, and some of them are shared by other religions. So there is not a debate. The debate is that Liberia was founded on Christian principles. The nation state coming together, the Declaration of Independence, all of those things were done by Christians, and if you read the original documents, you see that God gave to us the Christian religion is specifically set out in the preamble of the first and the second constitution that we had. And this is the discussion I would like to keep.
Okay, Senator. I got 6 more questions.
I got one more question for you.
I'm not. Oh, okay. I'm not taking any more questions. I promise. I know we are well beyond and above the time you had promised to be on this show. I want to apologize for that.
No, it's
these
okay.
These are your people.
Time.
So
I know, and I've had a good time. But I have a meeting with the Liberian community in North Carolina. We're having a meet and greet this evening, beginning at 6:00. So I'm reminded that we're just almost late. So, but I promise you that when I get back in a few months, I will try to hook up with you again so we can talk about some of the other issues that I wasn't able to really clarify to you, like the issues of the oil and all of those other things.
I was going to ask how you make that making that promise. So you do promise to feature, get on the show from Liberia, because we had a guest from Liberia not too long ago. That would be awesome. So that means you want to take your leave now, or you're going to take the five more questions?
I'll do one more question. I'll take one more.
Do one more question. That's a tough one. Who do I select for the? Who do I select
do
for
any, mini, money, more, or ask who the woman is on the lines, and you can take her.
I'm not sure. Let me see if this person is. I'm gonna take a long guess. I'm not sure if this. 6776. Your name? Where are you calling from? Please tell me. This is a woman. I'm not sure. 6776.
It is a woman, and thank you for taking my call.
Oh, I guess right.
You see how
lucky
I am. You guess right.
Yeah. Thank you. Your name? Where are you calling from? And your question?
My name is Tenen Konde Kamara. I'm calling from Minnesota, and my question is to the senator regarding to the.
You are very low. Yeah. Can you please adjust your phone?
Yes. Hello.
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. My question is, I've heard you speak a lot about how Liberia was founded on Christian principles, and everything Liberia is for the amendments and things like that goes by the Bible. Does that state? How do you respond to those people that feels that you and other Liberians, that are in power, are anti-Islamic?
Well, I would say to you that I'm not anti-Islamic. If you find out on my constituency and the amount of Islamic people living there, you'll find out that I'm not anti-Islamic. All I'm saying is that the fact of the matter, and when you look at our old documents, you'll find out that it says that God has given us the blessings of the Christian religion. And what I'll do is hopefully I can get your email, the moderator of the show, Mr. Kumar, and when I get home, I'll scan some of those original documents to you for the debate. Because I think when people see it, they will know that I'm not just creating a story or trying to bring confusion. I'm not a confusionist. I believe that in diversity, we can, in unity, develop our country. And so it doesn't matter. I don't go into the Islamic community and tell them to change their views. But I have strong views as a Christian. I don't impose it on anyone else. I impose it on my children because I know that I should be training children as Christians because I have the blessings of the Christian religion. So I'm not anti-Islamic. I have a lot of Islamic friends. So this is not about saying those who are Islamic should not live in Liberia, should not be welcomed in Liberia, because we are part and parcel of the same thing. But the fact is that our country was founded on Christian principles, and this is the issue that people don't want to accept. So I will have to get those documents to you, Mr. Kumar, and seeing how you can float it in the community so that they can see what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, thank you. On that note, I'm very, very sorry that we have to leave it here. We have to end it here. I know there are a lot of you who have made entries to ask the senator questions. I can see that. But all of you know that the communication we sent out, this was intended for just 45 minutes to an hour, and it's been way beyond and above that. So we are thankful. We want to apologize to the senator for having exceeded that time limit.
Again.
So, Senator, if you want to do a short closing remark, that's fine. Otherwise, we'll go back to the national anthem. But a short closing remark is up to you.
I want to thank you, Mr. Kumar, and all of you in the diaspora for this engagement. I think those of us who are in leadership in Liberia must do this more often so that we have a platform for discussions and understanding of the issues on both sides of the divide. I really look forward to those of you in the diaspora doing some significant things for Liberia. You're living here in a beautiful country. There is a lot that can be done to help support the work that government is doing. This year, I went out to begin to buy books for children in the hinterland counties that don't have any books, and I didn't get the support that I had hoped. There are a lot of things that you can do. Helping clinics in your area, providing funding to pay teachers in certain schools so that we could attract better teachers, helping buy books, helping buy equipment for the hospitals. And I want to throw out this challenge to you. There's a hospital that is being run by a Christian lady. It's called Kingdom Care, and they don't have a sonogram machine that they will use to help pregnant women through the 9 months of pregnancy and to diagnose certain illnesses. She's been crying for someone to help her get a sonogram machine for the last 3 years. I want to throw out this challenge. If someone might be listening that has some way of helping her get this machine, I would really appreciate it. And I would really appreciate interacting with the diasporan Liberians, not just in discussions of issues, but that some real impact can be made in improving the lives of the constituencies that you've come from, knowing how difficult things are in Liberia and working to make a difference. I spoke to someone in Eula this morning, and I raised the same issue with him. I say, you guys are interested in this dual citizenship thing, but other countries, you'll see how the Ghanaians and the Nigerians are rebuilding their communities, one house at a time, one clinic at a time. But Liberians are not yet doing that. There are few of you doing it, but many, many, many of you are just living here and enjoying the benefits that you get here without remembering that there is a need at home. I'm hoping that this is a call for you to rethink some of these discussions. Should not just be, what are the political issues on the ground, but what can we do to help make a difference? Thank you so much for this unique opportunity, and I'll try my best so that we can get this done again.
Thank you, Senator. Well, on behalf of myself, Kafuma Krama, and all the hardworking folks of the Liberian Diaspora Forum, we want to thank the Senator and thank all of you who tuned in today. I should never expected this many people. And then my apology to all of you whose questions, could not be answered due to time factor. Well, you heard the Senator right. We're going to do this sometime in the future. So on that note, this show is formally over. Once again, thank you, Senator Taylor. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Kerman. Before you go,